Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 65th lesson of A Course in Miracles. And I am so very elated to have our guest on today. I really am. The 65th lesson of A Course in Miracles states, "My only function is the one God gave me. My only function is the one that God gave me." And today, everyone, I am honored to welcome our guest today, who for many years has been exercising his God given function. Don Holes is an author and motivational speaker. After his NDE, Don began meditating and having out of body experiences as he was compelled to go deeper into higher consciousness and began encountering several spiritual masters. Don, welcome to the show. We are so pleased to have you here. So excited. So excited.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, yes, yes. I know that you've gained so much wisdom throughout the years through your spiritual journey. So why don't you start when you were a young man and then just take us on through your process?
Well, I think I was between 10 and 11 years old. I've shared that I was my first experience with any of this, and I really didn't know anything at that age. I didn't even know how to put it. I just accepted what happened, and I thought it was a good thing. I was on some ice, and we had a pond in the backyard. And you know what kids do, they jump up and down on the ice and, until it cracks, and then they can't get out of it. Now, for me, fortunately, the pond was only maybe 3 feet in depth, but I only weighed, what, 90 pounds? So I went through. And, your first thought is this is going to be really cold, or you're thinking about the cold. And then you have all these clothes on. So if they get wet, Daddy's going to get really cold. But I didn't experience any cold. I'm thinking, wow, something's wrong. What is this? What is this? So I felt nothing but warmth. And I can't really describe it, but it didn't feel like a physical warmth. It was just a warmth. And then I began to experience the pinkish color and light. So there was a vibrant light and this warmth. And that was the two things. The pink light, which I later found out kind of represented love, and the fact that I was feeling warm when I should have been feeling cold didn't add up. Now, I assumed that I went unconscious for how long, I can't tell you, but I do remember coming to consciousness. I was already out of the water and I was up on, I guess what you call it, a small embankment. And when I came to, then I remember all of a sudden feeling cold. So in my mind, I was out of my body to protect myself. Okay, to protect me. I don't know if the breathing got shut off. I don't know what happened. All I know is I felt good. I felt warm, and I had this uh, pinkish white light in front of me the whole time. So, I wasn't, religious enough, church going enough to know that, I remember reading a lot about light in the Bible and people talking about the light. So I was thinking, okay, God, this is God, and God is helping me through this. Um, when I did get myself together, I remember going in the house feeling so cold. All I wanted to do was take off these wet clothes, cold clothes, just take everything off. And I did that. I threw everything on the floor. I didn't care if my mother was gonna get mad at me or anything like that. I just wanted to get warm. So I remember getting in the bathtub and just sitting in the warm water and sitting in it until I got my body temperature correct because I was shivering. And then after that, I went and got in bed. And that was the end of it. With no nothing. nothing bigger than that. But I actually had forgotten about it because to me it was just it's almost like it was a natural thing. And so I would say a year or so later, I went to live with my grandmother, from my mom's to my grandmother, and I'm in church, and my church had a book table there. It had a book table, and I wasn't too fond and crazy about getting books, but they put the books there. We could take them and bring them back at our leisure. But I saw a card, and the card fascinated me. It had a picture of Christ on the card and on the front. Looked more like a statue, but it was still a picture of Christ. And the eyes were just big, and it was something about the eye. So I turned the card over in very fine print. It said, if you meditate on me for 5 minutes a day, your life will change. That fascinated me. I wanted that. I wanted my life. I wanted whatever that meant, I wanted it. But I didn't know what meditation was. So I remember going to the library and getting the Webster's dictionary, and it said something about deep thinking. I said, no, whatever I'm looking for is deeper than that. That's not what I'm looking for. They only had two books in the library back then. This was back in maybe like 1970. Um, so I found a book called Om, O-M, and I opened it, and it had an Eastern gentleman in there, maybe from India, I don't know. And he was doing all these positions. He put his feet back behind his head and twist up like a pretzel. And I kept looking at these pictures, and I said, you know what? This is not what I'm looking for either. I mean, this is impressive, but it's not impressing me to get where I want to go, because that card said if I did this, my life would change. So I looked in the very back of that book. I never did take the book back. I don't know where it is now, but I never took it back. I kept it. I kept it. I kept it as a reference book, because in the very back, it had a man, the same man, he mentioned meditation. And he said there's two positions for meditation. One sitting up. Now he had his legs crossed. I said, oh, that's going to be, I'm going to have to work on that one. And he was laying down. He said you can do either one. He said, but if you live in the West and you're not used to this, when you lay down, you're gonna go to sleep. And I hadn't used the word at the time, but I knew there was a difference between sleepitation and meditation. And I didn't want to sleepitate. I wanted to meditate. So that began my journey of meditation. And I, I I I just simply went home and did what I saw in that photograph. And I used to sit in a chair. And I remember my very first meditation, because he did say the center point was the third eye. And I remember reading in Matthew 6:22, it says, "If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." And that's what I wanted. That's what I want. That's what I knew would make my life change. So I made the connection that much. But my first meditation was 7 minutes, a time. Next thing you knew, I could do 15 minutes. I thought, oh my goodness. And this just kept going. And I don't even think it took a year, but I built myself up to an hour. And what happened was that hour didn't seem like an hour. So now I'm learning about time and the reality of it, and time displacement. I'm learning all of these things. How you can make time go faster, how you can slow time down and make it go slower. Because it's an illusion anyway. So we should be able to manipulate it basically at our will. So I would say um, between 14 and 16, I got up to over 2 hours in a meditation setting. And I just say to people don't sit that long for no reason. This nobody sits for 2 hours and there's nothing going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that's happening. So for me, I noticed this. The same experience that I had when I fell through that water, I was having almost daily just by sitting still and putting my attention here in meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And the longer I learned how to be still, you could know God. Be still and know that I am God. Psalms 46:10. To me, if you don't know anything but Psalms 46:10 and Matthew 6:22, it's telling you everything you need to know. The rest of it is up to you. See, to me, nothing is a cakewalk. See, some people want to be gifted things immediately. They want sense gratification. They say, I want it now. I want all of it, but I want it right now. And so when we don't get it right now, whatever it was, that's the reason they fail. We never say, I failed. I failed at something. So meditation is a practice. It takes patience. It takes perseverance. It's something we need fortitude with, but it's something we have to do. You have to learn how to sit still and be quiet. And the longer you can do that, then we begin to access God. You just told me God is within everyone. Okay. Well, what is that like? What is that experience like? I mean, the words sound nice, but to actually have that as an experience. So I would say I've just continued the process. And there is a journey. There is a journey. The Bible talks even about different realms, different heavens,
Mm-hmm.
3 heavens, and 7 heavens, and all this different stuff. Well, what's that all about? Anybody wonder what, what do I go there? Or where do I go when I leave? Do I just assume this happens? Or is there something more to it? I had a lot of questions. And so I decided I was supposed to get the answers inside.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Don. Did you ever go home and express to your parents that you had just lost consciousness at the very least
No,
in the water? You just
that,
kind of,
that, that first one, I was between 10 and 11 years old. I was too scared to go. And, my mother and I could talk about anything, but I knew I wasn't supposed to be back there jumping up and down on that ice. And I knew I would get in trouble to some degree. And so I just said, you know what? God took care of it, gave me a nice warm experience. And that's kind of the end of it. I never even thought about it much anymore until I started meditating and realized that through meditation I could have the same uh, inner experience as I had then without the trauma. That's what I liked about meditation.
yes,
I
yes,
didn't have to have a heart attack. I didn't have to fall off of a ladder. I didn't have to bang up my car and be in a car crash.
yeah.
Meditation was just sitting still, and if you did it long enough, something happened. The same thing for me. It was the same thing. I was so excited.
Well, that was fascinating, Don, that in church you saw a pamphlet and it talked about meditate on me, and that just started your basically really your spiritual journey throughout your entire life. When you meditated for the first time, and you said you did it for 7 minutes, you were able to have no thought for that 7 minutes.
Well, I'm not sure it was perfectly no thought, but it was still enough for me to feel something, to feel a frequency shift, to feel a shift in vibration. There was something, even in that first time, I said, wow, I like this. I got to do this again.
Yes, I love that. I just love the simplicity of that story. Um, yes, I love that. Tell us real quick, Don, about another NDE you had And then after that, we can start. I would love for us to delve deeper about meditation, but the one with the car accident, I think it's profound.
Hmm. Well, this year I was much older, not much, but I was older. I think this, I think I was on my second car. I could see the car. It was a small car. It was brown. My mother helped me get that car, and I just remember I was over in the Washington D.C. area, and I can't remember what I was doing. Can't even remember what I was doing there. I just remember what happened. Now I did have certain roads that I traveled all the time. You start developing your own little route to get from place to place. And there was a very steep hill that I would go down all the time. I don't remember coming up that hill as much as going down. And one day I'm getting that's my route. I'm getting ready to take that. And it just rained enough to make the leaves on the ground slippery. You know, they secrete like an oil, and you just need a little bit of water. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, I'm going to have a problem today. Something didn't feel right. Maybe I was picking up a premonition of some type that
Mm,
if I go down that hill, there's going to be a problem. And people weren't thinking like me. See, I was into meteorology. The potential danger of going down a very steep hill with these leaves and the moisture on the ground. I knew if you go too fast, you were going to hydroplane or you could, have an accident. So the car passed me, and then all of a sudden they must have got, wow, I need to slow up and be careful. So
mm,
they're gonna slow up in front of me. They get right, they go past me, slow up right in front of me, and I hit the brake to not hit them. But what do? Everybody's gonna slide, and I went right into that car. They stopped. It completely turned sideways and stopped. And people behind me, I don't know how more cars didn't get involved, but the impact was enough for, I think I remember that little car got totaled. So my left knee got crunched up under the front where the steering wheel is. I remember that. So that hurt. I remember having pain there. And my forehead, I had my seatbelt on as far as I can remember, but there was enough impact from my forehead to hit something. And I keep thinking it was the windshield. That's a pretty good, for your body to get thrown up that far though and then back. That's a pretty serious impact.
mhm,
But it was enough for me to go out of conscious, above body conscious. I didn't go unconscious. Why? How do I know that? Because I immediately went into a white light during this experience. And there was even, people talk about seeing beings of light and white light and all that. So I had that experience enough for this white light or the being of light or tell me that everything was going to be okay. So I'm thinking, wow, I just had an accident. My body is going through what it's going through, but I'm not experiencing what my body is going through. I'm having something else going on.
mhm,
And so that when that near death experience ended, all of a sudden now I could feel my body. Because I'm back in my body.
mhm,
And I remember ambulance coming, and they took me in the ambulance, and I remember they examined my forehead, and I had a lump there, or a contusion, or whatever you want to call it. It felt like it was bleeding because I just kept feeling something running down my forehead, and I had a cut on my left knee. I remember hearing them talk about that. So they got me in the ambulance, and I remember them talking about where they were going to take me, what hospital. I didn't know where the hospitals were in DC. So I hear them talking about my forehead and my knee as we're riding along, and they had put something on my knee, and they had put something here on my forehead. Well, we arrive at the hospital, and they're getting ready to take me in because that's what they're supposed to do. I'm supposed to get looked at. Well, uh, I took a look at my knee, and I had my hand on my knee the whole time. You know, well, I didn't see anything on my knee. I didn't see any cut. I didn't see anything. Now, there is a small scar there, even today. But whatever happened there was not there anymore. I mean, how, how can you make sense of these things when all this is going on together at the same time? Um,
So when
but
they looked at you,
yeah,
they really.
we pulled right up. They're getting ready to take me in.
Mhm.
Whatever they talked about wasn't there anymore.
Wow.
I looked and I had a mirror. I said, "Can I see a mirror?" I remember asking for a mirror, and I looked up here and there was nothing there. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things that you can't explain it, but instant healing. People have a lot of different names for all these
Mm-hmm.
things that
Mm-hmm.
happen. I've never tried to explain it. I'm just sharing with you what happened.
Yeah.
I was told everything would be okay. That was a relief, and I just kind of went with the flow of things. Um, I I remember being some telepathic thing to put my hand on my knee, but I don't remember my forehead.
Mm-hmm.
I was just amazed that they're talking about this on the ride to the hospital, and when we get there, there was nothing. It was nothing. So
Were they shocked, Don? Were they shocked to find that you didn't need to go into
I
the
guess
hospital?
I remember one female and one guy, and it was almost like they see this stuff all the time, but they did, and they're about as much surprised as you are listening to me tell you now.
Mhm.
But then they know that they have to continue on, get me where I have to go and go to work. They had to get back on the road and go to work.
Mhm.
I do remember that I never went in the hospital. I remember that much. And I can't tell you I don't remember what happened after that. How I got, the car was totaled. I'm thinking that somebody had to come and pick me up. That was where they picked me up and all that. So
Wow, thank you so much. That's incredible. That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So, all this time growing up, you've
hmm
discovered this meditation thing,
hmm
and you're recognizing that you're able to do this longer and longer and longer. Was there a certain point? I've heard you say that there was a certain point, I think in 10th grade, where you were talking to your teacher, and he was explaining to you that you needed a spiritual mentor, because I do believe at that point, Don, you were interacting with beings on the other side, which is I've heard that before. I've interviewed a woman who has lucid dreams a lot, and she talks about her adventures where she's meeting these beings who some of them look kind of like us and some of them don't, and so I think you were starting to get to a point where you were meeting people, and your 10th grade teacher suggested you have a mentor. Can you talk about that with us a little bit?
yeah, my 10th grade Latin teacher, I would share with him some of the things that we're talking about. Um, and he simply said one day, he said, "Look, it sounds to me like you're going to need a spiritual guide. You don't want to go too far with this stuff. And he said it's not all milk and honey. And so the he said I have a teacher. He said many people that I talk to, they have a spiritual guide that not only can help you with things in the mundane world, but can help you inside. So I said, okay, well that this makes sense to me. Who am I to think I can just continue to do this and know I don't know what I'm doing? I think I know everything. That's crazy. So he would give me, pamphlets and books and things to read. Now his teacher was from the East, and I didn't have a problem with that because I figured Buddha was from the East, Muhammad was from the East, Yeshua was from the East. Anybody I'd ever read, Moses was from the East. Almost all the spiritual teachers that I knew about were from the East. Sun rises in the East and sets in the West. My mind starts thinking like that. And so I felt drawn to that. And I remember one day, uh, I'll just say this. He he uh, he said, "There's a picture of my teacher up on my desk. Why don't you go and take a look at him?" So I looked at it, and I told him that I had seen this person before, and his mouth dropped. His hands were shaking like a little bit like this. Well, he said that he couldn't have seen him. Couldn't have seen him because he doesn't live here. He doesn't even live in the United States. He's in India. And I said, well, I'm telling you that I've seen him before inside. He said, well, if you've seen him before, what's his name? So I gave him a name. It it wasn't exactly pronounced the way that it was, but it was close enough for him to know that I had likely seen this person. And so we both agreed that that was probably going to be my teacher. That my teacher was already visiting me in the inner realm to make a connection. So um, that's all.
That's awesome. So did he become your teacher, Don?
No, he actually passed away. Uh, I believe in a couple years after that, his physically he left. So I learned.
He had already been interacting with you. Uh,
Yeah, I learned that there was always these teachers. That there was always if you look at and even if you look at Yeshua, he went to John the Baptist for his initiation or his baptism. And
mhm,
we just know all we know is about the baptism into the water. If you don't know about the light, then you got to go earthly.
mhm,
You have to make something about something. So we say, well, okay, well, maybe he was baptizing. And I'm not saying that that wasn't a ritual.
mhm,
What I'm saying is that Yeshua and Buddha and Moses all talked about the light inside. If you read enough, they all bring up this light. And even Moses talked about seeing a bush that burned that didn't burn.
mhm,
Okay. That burning bush was burning. He could see it in light, it was flaming, radiant light. But there were no ashes. There was nothing physical. That was not a physical experience.
mhm, mhm,
So the burning bush is a metaphor. It's talking about, inside. You see things in radiant light, bright light, but they're not burning physically because they're not of this world. That was a beautiful example, the burning bush.
mhm,
So all of them talked about the light inside and how to access it. And if thine eye be single, how can you read that to me any other way than the third eye? And it says, if thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of this light. I was just amazed. I was thrilled as I was learning more and more about this. So my point is that every teacher was once a student. Every teacher, even Christ, was humble enough to show us that he had to go to John to receive something. And I'm saying that it's a lot more to that than just water.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know about the Course in Miracles, if you don't know about the inside, if you haven't had these experiences of light, then
Mm-hmm.
somebody says, well, what do you think he was talking about? Oh, he's just talking about water. No, there was light involved when his initiation was into baptism into the light. And
Mm-hmm.
then they always talk about how Peter succeeded him. A lot of the professional, I forget the word, but the theologians that study this stuff, they can see that there's something passed down to the next person, to the next person. So it's no different from Buddha, the same thing. If you can bring up Moses, there was always someone that these people went to. That there was always a disciple that became a master. Nobody just instantly became anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, I don't know if you've read books, but they talk about the 18 missing years. Right. What was he doing? He said he talked to him when about his 12. The next thing you know, he's 30, doing all these things. Well, what happened between 12 and 30?
Mm-hmm.
What was he doing? So, from what I understand, he was meditating, 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 because this is how he became who we know today is
Mm-hmm.
Christ. So, and the many if you go to the East, they know they're very humble. Most areas are very humble, and they have all these names, a list of names. I couldn't even pronounce some of the names to you. Lord Krishna, 10,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I learned the importance of having a teacher. So what I wanted to tell you is that that teacher passed away, okay, but I was led from him to my teacher, and my teacher was the successor to the teacher that I had experienced.
Wow. Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. So Don, take us novices, right? Um, into the world of meditation. Give us your advice, your wisdom. I know you've talked about light and sound. Um, that if we stick with it enough, we can hear certain sounds. Take us into your journey. Take us some of the experiences you've had, and give us advice for those of us that want to experience those things, access that light that you're talking about that's within us.
Okay, I would say definitely the first thing that I learned from my high school teacher, he said, if you're going to take this deeper and you're going to continue to have these things happen that you shared with me, you need to have a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have someone that's already been there, done that, that can help guide you through these things and spend time communicating with you on this and all that. So I do highly recommend a teacher. I would say that, I say all the time to people, if you've had an NDE or an OBE, and I hear a lot of other terminologies now, I'm only talking about the point where you have been out of body
Mm-hmm.
and you have experienced some kind of light or some kind of vibration or colors of light, something of that nature that is not physical. And it's not. Once you're out of body, you know that you're in the spiritual realm. You know that you're no longer here.
Mm-hmm.
All that I am saying is that if we have had anything like that, It's not ours. It's God given. It's a gift, and uh, so I call them blessings. And so I love blessings. I love blessings. I love being out under a tree watching all the leaves fall around and thinking, oh, every leaf is a blessing. And they
Mhm.
just fall like blossoms, just fall all around you. They're falling all the time. We don't see it,
Mhm.
but these blessings are falling. And why would I call that experience a blessing? Well, the main thing, and this is what you're asking me to do, the main reason is to show us that there is an existence beyond this world.
Mhm. Mhm.
I just think we are not hungry enough to want more.
Mhm.
It's there. It says the kingdom of God is within us.
Mhm.
So if you know that or you read that in a book somewhere, why wouldn't you not want to access more?
Mhm.
So for me, any and all of that is accessed through meditation. And when we meditate, what is the center? What is the center point for us to meditate? Well, that would be the third eye. Everybody talked about that. Yogis, Yogananda talked about it. Madame Blavatsky of the Theosophical Society talked about it. Sitting Bull, American Indian, Geronimo, and a few, they all talked about the light. They all talked about this center here. What did they do though? They learned to be still. They learned to sit still and be quiet. Everybody wants to do this. And if you look the way we're structured, we have two ears and one mouth. And that means we're supposed to listen twice as much as we talk.
Mhm.
But somewhere along the line, we got that backwards. And people like to talk twice as much as they listen. So we have to learn how to listen. So meditation is also a process of not only seeing, but listening. Okay. So I did mention to you about the sound current. A lot of people hear this vibrating, humming, or high pitch ringing, and all that. That's the beginning. If you hear that, that's also a blessing. Not a lot of people don't hear it, but there's some vibrations. Quantum physics tells us that everything is vibrating light. Everything is vibrating light. Everything. Every time a quantum physics person breaks down to a smaller molecule, a smaller particle, they still say it's smaller than the one before, but it's still giving off light and it's still vibrating. So every time they discover something smaller in quantum physics, yes, they're discovering smaller things, but they all have the same basic vibration and light, which tells you and me that everything is made up of light and sound. Everything. I don't care if it's a tree, a rock, an animal, other human being, we're all made of light and sound. So meditation is simply the way to access our inner light and sound. It always has been. There's nothing new. It's always been there.
And Don, is that what you were talking about when you referred to the soul needing food as well, just like the body
I
requires
like that.
food?
Yeah,
That
I like that. Yes.
yeah.
Uh, the I call soul the real soul food. You see, the body needs nourishment, no doubt, but it has to be of a physical nature. You have to have something made of the elements, which is earth, water, fire, and air. And then there's an etheric element, really the fifth element. So if we can't go a long time without water and giving physical nourishment to the body. Well, but we're not the body. We're the indweller of this body. We're the spirit or the soul inhabiting the body. So if you ever wonder, what does the soul need? What do the souls need? What does it nourish on?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the soul is made of light and vibration, then it must need light and vibration as its food.
Mm-hmm.
So we can strengthen our soul. And I really don't even say our soul. I say I just say soul because Buddha said, he said, you don't have a soul, you are soul. See, so we have to change our thinking. We usually think, oh, I'm this body and the soul's inside.
Mm-hmm.
We came here as spirit, as soul, and in order for us to act act out and get around on this planet, we were given these bodies.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
only way we can behave and love people and not love them, go to war and not go to war, is to have these bodies. We didn't have these bodies, there wouldn't be none of this stuff going on. So my thing is learn how to connect with the soul as much as possible until you start believing that you are soul. Soul has to become dominant in our consciousness. Right now, the body is. And
Mm-hmm.
you even hear people say, "Oh, I have a mind." The mind is a separate entity too. So there was three things: we have a body, we have a mind, and we are soul.
Mm-hmm.
So we are designed through meditation to make conscious contact with us as soul. And when that force becomes dominant, then you have all the powers given to you, by source as a child of invincible light, a child of God. Uh, the reason we can't access that is because we don't know that. If you talk to most people, they start giving you a description of themselves about who they are and their body, and I'm a doc, and they start giving you the labels. I'm a doctor, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
physicist, I'm all these things. And the truth is, that's our character. That's our outer label. We're not really any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So until I learn how to, and that's what meditation has done. It's taken time. It doesn't happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Mm-hmm.
But as I start to connect with myself more consciously on the level of soul, I start to become that. You want to be able to meditate so much that you become meditation. You want to pray so much that you become prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And I simply share with people that, prayer is a great thing, but it's talking to God. Meditation is listening to God.
Mm-hmm.
So I can talk to God all day, but meditation, how much time do I spend listening? We talking to God, talking to God, talking to God, and then we go home and say, He didn't answer my prayer. Well, we talked all day, asking. We do the prayer of supplication the most. The prayer of supplication is asking God for things. If you look
Mm-hmm.
at Facebook, if you look at some of these places where we go to prayer, most of the time, I'm not judging it at all. I'm just sharing with you my observation.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, we are asking prayers for something,
Mm-hmm.
for someone, for my son, prayer for this person that has cancer, prayer for my car, prayer for my house, prayer. How often do we say, God, I just want to pray for you. I want you in my life. I want to have more of your power, more of your love,
Mm-hmm.
more of your compassion and humility in my life. And then if I could just go sit down for a few minutes and listen,
Mm-hmm.
then that power of God starts to come into us through that meditation. Because now we have made a conscious choice, a decision. Now I'm going to start listening to God. I'm going to start talking less, and I'm going to see meditation is 5 levels of prayer. You got prayer of supplication, where we just ask
Mm-hmm.
for this, ask for this. Then we have the prayer of resignation, and the prayer of resignation is, I'm sorry, we have prayer reciprocation. The prayer reciprocation is I'm praying, but now I need you to give me something back. Okay, God, if you let me get through this experience, if I just get through this divorce, if I just I'll be good. And I won't do that anymore. How about that? We're trying to make a deal with
Yeah.
God. So that's reciprocation because we're doing to get something back. And then there's the prayer of recitation. Where we do the rosary. That's where we do something where there's we're reciting prayer out loud. You know, the monks have their beads and they
Mm-hmm.
twirl the beads. It's something
Mm-hmm.
that we recite, which is a little bit deeper. Now we're taking prayer to a deeper level. But then the fourth prayer is the prayer of resignation. Now I resign my will to God.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet is thy will, O Lord, not mine. So now we've decided to resign our will over to God. That's taking it even deeper. That's a very high, deep level of prayer when we've got, because now we're going to accept anything that comes up in our life, whether it's bad or good, it's still a prayer. It's still a blessing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, step 5 in prayer is meditation, which is listening to God.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's where I try to direct people to that point, because that's when the miracles start to happen.
That is profound. Wow, I've never heard it broken down like that. So meditation is the final phase of prayer
Yes,
where we
yes.
are at a point where we're surrendered so much we
Mm-hmm.
no longer really feel the need to speak, right? We
Yeah.
just
You
listen.
just listen. Uh-huh.
Beautiful.
And then that's when the light appears. That's when vibration appears. That's when people begin to have these experiences. Now, have all NDEers and they'll be going through those 5 stages? No. Sometimes God makes, I'm going to choose this today. We're going to go here today. This person's going to have, because God so loves us that he said, okay, I'm just going to randomly, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And now, but we see what they're going to do with it. I'm giving them an experience. I'm letting these people know that I exist, that there's something greater than where they are exist. Even though they read that in the book, I'm
Mhm.
allowing them to experience this light, see
Mhm.
the white light, see the blue light, see the beings, see a couple of beings of light. Maybe they talk to Jesus. Maybe they met Buddha inside. Okay, well, I just don't see how you can have that and not want more. I'm personally, I'm not content with, if you give me that, I want more. I just had to find out how to do that. I was curious and I wanted to know how. Some people are content, and I'm not labeling, I'm not judging, I don't get into that. I'm looking for people that want to know more. That they say, look, I've had this. How do I have more? Is there a way for me to access more? If I've had a near death experience, could I have it? Could I have that again? Could I see that? I want to know how to do that.
Talk about Don, how self-love and love of God deepens our meditation. I've heard you talk about how self-love deepens our meditation practice. How are those two related?
That is so beautiful. And I don't think in all the interviews that I've done that anybody has brought that up. And what I like about it is you have asked, how does self love improve or help our meditation? What I want to do is put that in reverse
Mhm.
and say that it is the meditation that can help deepen my self love. Now, let's go back and define self love. How important is it? Well, in my opinion, based on all the experiences, all the study, all the learning, I just looked at it. Today being my 67th birthday.
Happy
I
birthday.
thank you so much. I It's a shock. I have been meditating over 53 years.
Wow.
I don't think anybody meditates for 50 years if they're not experiencing something. It
Yeah.
just, I just don't. It doesn't make sense to me. So, and I want, if I don't forget, I would like to share something else with you. But self love is so important because I can only love others at the level that I have learned to love myself.
Mm.
Now, I can go out there and act. I can put on a good act. I can pretend, I can make it look good. You know, a lot of people are movie stars. We just come back and we've learned how to act.
Mm,
I was looking at one saint, and he called them pretenders, and he wasn't being negative.
mm-hmm,
He's just saying that people, and especially in our time and age, they've learned how to behave and act real good. When at the heart, they're not. We're not really there.
mm-hmm.
So it's see, for most of us, we've been abused. We've been emotionally abused. We've been financially abused. We've been physically abused, sexually abused, psychologically abused. There's so many levels of abuse. And I learned something. I learned that we, as children of God, children of invincible light, are extraordinarily sensitive. So that what you see here on earth, for example, it would be easy for you and I to point out uh, that someone has assaulted someone. Someone has gone up and physically assaulted a person or
Mm-hmm.
hit them or something. We always, oh, I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I see that. Okay, what are we not seeing? Well, I learned that um, if we reject someone, if we isolate them and don't make them a part of our family, a part of our neighborhood, a part of our culture, uh, and we do that long enough, just that rejection alone is equivalent to a physical assault.
Wow.
That's how sensitive we are.
Yeah.
Now, what happens is we internalize this abuse and then we get angry.
Mm-hmm.
And we get angry to make us look like a rooster,
Mm-hmm.
crowing in the morning, like that. So we got our chest out and I'm bad and I'm angry. But if
Mm-hmm.
you get with these guys, even these guys that are bodybuilders and weigh 300 pounds, they'll start crying because all of that's an outward show. When inside, I felt rejected. I felt unloved, unwanted. Nobody wanted to be around me. I didn't feel loved. Maybe a lot of that started with my caretaker, my parent,
Mm-hmm.
my parent, my guardian, whoever they were. It began there, and what we say today. Oh, mama had 2 jobs, daddy had 3 jobs, daddy wasn't around, daddy wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, you know, we start pointing fingers when the truth of the matter is we don't feel validated. We don't feel love. And if you don't feel love, you're not going to feel validated. You're not going to feel respected. You're not going to feel honored.
Mm-hmm.
So self love is about me learning how to love myself when nobody else will. Now, how powerful is this? It's this powerful. Who is inside all of us?
God.
Absolutely. So if I learn how to love myself, I'm also learning how to love God.
Absolutely.
I'm doing 2 in 1.
Yeah.
It's a 2 in 1. And see, there's a beautiful thing on there because I love God and then God's going to love me more.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm stronger. I can love God a little bit more and then God's going to love me more.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the powerful things about meditation, it makes us stronger from within. Why? How does that work? Because I'm making more conscious contact with God. Every minute that I sit in meditation, I'm making conscious contact with God. What does scripture tell us? Scripture tells us God is love. There's no difference. If you know God, you know love. If you know love, you know God. So we have to have this power within us, and you can access it fastest and most direct through meditation. It gives us conscious contact with that power. Now, you do that for a week, notice the shift. Do it for a year, notice the shift. And after 2 years, you don't need any validation from anybody outside yourself because God has done all he can do for you and you're doing it for yourself. And you watch these people a year or two later and you be around them and you say, oh, I was around Susan and she's just vibrating. She's so happy. There's so much love coming out of her. She's been meditating. She's been loving herself. She's been loving God. And you can't keep doing that. It builds up. It's quantitative.
Mm.
So the more you have, the more you give. And the more you give, the more you're gifted. That's a mistake people make. They think if I keep giving, I'm giving it all away. Love is the one is the one quality that when we give it away, we get more.
Mm.
And that's what I mean by the more you give, the more you are gifted.
Oh, you taking me to church, Don. You're taking me to church. Um, Tell us about how, can you give us an example about how meditation helped you, assisted you in dealing with life's challenges? For example, there are a lot of people who are having panic attacks, anxiety, um, you know, where they're just having a hard time managing life. Do you have an example of two of how meditation, because of your meditation practice, you did not respond to an event the way that we've been conditioned to respond, the fight, flight, or freeze, or whatever, but you were able to respond to it from a higher perspective?
I love that, and I would just say a different perspective. One of the main things that happens in meditation is that you acquire an enhanced calm.
Mm.
It's an enhanced peace, and so, like I said, it may not happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day, but if a person has practiced for a year, a two, a three, um, all of a sudden you have reached a level of peace within yourself. Um, you have reached a level of calm within yourself that you cannot be disturbed by what's going on around you. I've heard people tell me that they were in a 7 point something earthquake, but they were meditating, so they don't even remember the earthquake.
Wow.
So there, now what is that enhanced calm? What is that enhanced peace? That's God. So it's just a level of peace. Your whole being must be aware of this. That's what happened to me when I had that car accident.
Mm-hmm.
I had been meditating enough that most people would have like, oh my God, I had an accident. Oh, I totaled the car. I gotta call this, I gotta call work and they you go into this panic. And you go into anxiety attack and you go into this and that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this was to go with the flow of the event. And I think that that was actually a part of the healing process because I had the ability to be calm,
Mm-hmm.
because I had this enhanced peace of mind. My state of being was at peace. This is what happened. So I think that meditation over time is very hard for people that have anxiety, built up anxiety attacks. There's so many post-traumatic stress disorder, all these things. It's not easy for them to just sit down and meditate. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work that way. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying that what would I do if I had some of these conditions? I would try to meditate maybe with other people that are already doing it. So that's a group support. But I would time myself. Even people with these conditions, these mental or emotional conditions, could time and sit down for 1 minute Okay, and then you do 2 minutes, and you work yourself up to 3 or 4 minutes. You'd be surprised. Oh, I can do 5 minutes now. I was going to do a minute a month ago, but now I can do 5 minutes. And what I'm saying to you is that this power that we get through and in meditation is cumulative. It's not like you do it and it goes away, and you do it and it goes away. Every time you meditate, you're building upon your previous meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's the same thing with the power of prayer. People say, "Oh, I'm just going to go pray today. I'm going to pray on Sunday. I'm going to pray." And they don't think about it. Prayer is a cumulative thing.
Wow.
It accumulates. So the more you pray, the stronger and the more powerful your prayers become. It's the same with meditation. And I'm always going to suggest we meditate twice as long as we pray, because meditation is listening to God and prayer is talking to God. So I think meditation can help with anything, any dis-ease. Why? Because meditation is about ease.
Mm.
Okay. It's the mind that takes us into dis-ease. The mind is all about distraction. If you look at it back there, we learned in Bible school, we learned about the snake. And we all learned about the snake. And so what does the snake represent? The mind is a separate entity from us. What we have done in our time is we make the mind the king,
Mm-hmm.
and we go the way of the mind. And I'm suggesting that we need to go the way of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
We have a body,
Mm-hmm.
there's the mind, and there's the soul. There's three separate entities. And a lot of people ignore the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
They ignore God, or they only go to God when we need something. We only go to God when we talk about that first prayer of supplication, right? So there's a lot of lessons for us to learn. Prayer should be 24 hours a day, but the world in general, Loretta, is praying to the mind. We're following the dictates of the mind and not the soul. And
Mm-hmm.
all I'm saying, meditation is a wonderful practice to help us learn how to go in the other direction. Because the meditation increases a power that we have. It's called discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's called discernment. And when we follow the mind, we tend to lose the ability to discern
Mm-hmm.
and discriminate because there's too much power over there. You know, we see a neighbor that just bought a new car and he went one-upsmanship on it. Now I got to go out and I got to buy a car and go up on him. And this can go back and forth. Or I just got a house. I just paid $700,000 for my house. And okay, now the neighbor went and bought $1 million house, or my relative did downstate in Kentucky. So now I got to go out and buy a big. And this stuff is going on all the time, and God doesn't care about any of this stuff. Only God cares is you love God.
Yeah.
That's all God asks of us, to develop as much love for God. And you said how to start. We do that by developing self-love. That's the first. That's where we can start. It's a beautiful place.
Self-love. I love that. I love that. So thank you for that, Don. Are there any last words of wisdom that you would like to share with the folks looking at this video? It could be about meditation or just anything.
Yeah, and actually, when I think about it, we've already shared and talked about it. I personally feel that meditation is key. Um, if anyone is interested in experiencing the kingdom within, experiencing the kingdom of God, experiencing source, experience the light within, uh, other than you getting knocked on the head through a near-death experience, this is the way to go. And there's so much more beyond whatever we've had in one or two experiences. So you and I think we were with there was was a gentleman. You and I were in a group, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he talked about having, uh, I think he said something like thousands of OBEs
Mm,
over the years.
mm-hmm,
So whatever you've been gifted, you know, it's I believe that this stuff happens to let you know that there's more and that we can have more and that we can access more. And, there's a whole lot of benefit physically from meditation. I even read that meditation can help purify your blood.
mm,
Can you imagine that when it comes to dis-ease? How, because meditation is about putting you at ease. So the more you've learned how to be at ease, then it takes you away from dis-ease.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
That's just one thing. We could go on and on. I have a workshop, and I think in that workshop I must list 25 or 30 benefits of meditation. How to focus longer, how to focus better when you're at your job, when you're at your work, how you can concentrate more. And sometimes people say, "Oh, I got 2 or 3 times more things done today." And I've been meditating for 2 years now, and I'm just focused now. You know, so it's nonstop. I'm not saying meditation is the cure all of everything, but I'm saying if you add it to whatever else that you may be doing, you'd be surprised over time. Because once again, meditation is about putting us in contact with the light
mm-hmm,
and the vibration. If a person has cataract, what do they use to get rid of those cataracts? They use laser light to burn off the cataract. If a person has gallstones, they use sound vibration to help break up the stone so that the person can pass the stone.
mm-hmm,
Everything is using light and sound. So
mm-hmm.
if that's true in the physical world, imagine the power 10,000 times greater on the inside. Remember, I was sharing with you earlier about that uh, isolation and rejecting being equivalent to a physical assault.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So emotionally, we're very sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation goes a long way in healing us mentally. I think we could get rid of a lot of mental health issues if we teach people at a younger and younger age how to meditate. I was in India and I saw kids 5 and 6 years old meditate. They'd been sitting there 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and just 5 or 6 years old. So I know it can be done. I've seen it. Our emotional health could be helped through meditation, and certainly the physical body health could be. I mean, I lift weights. I go to the gym, and I feel the meditation helps me with all my physical activity.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I believe, Don, that it would be incredibly beneficial to incorporate meditation into the school system. We should prioritize that. There's many things that we subject our kids to in the school system that should easily be replaced by meditation, by teaching our children how to interpret their emotions and feelings, how to create and manifest a happy dream in this illusion. So I agree. It where will we be in 5 years if we taught our kids how to meditate young like you did? It would be an incredible thing. How can people contact you, Don? You spoke of a workshop. If people wanted to take advantage of that, I don't know if you have something on Zoom or whatever, but how can people contact you if they wanted to talk to you? Or
All you have to, if you are seriously wanting to get in touch with me right now, all you have to do is message me on private messenger on Facebook. So this Facebook Messenger me. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on any of these other things. I hope people will see this presentation, and enjoy that and go from there. But even after this, I do workshops, um, and we always meditate a little bit at the end of the workshop. I have one up in Western Maryland on the 4th. It's called Detox the Mind, how to detox the mind. And we'll talk about how meditation can help do that. So we're living in very, very toxic times right now, which you're just talking about, which was a good reason to get meditation into schools at a younger and younger and younger age. So these are things we have to look at and work on and try to develop. But right now, if you want to follow up with me on anything we talked about today, just message me on Facebook and I will get back.
Thank you so much for that. A last question that I wanted to ask you. I've heard you say that near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences, every time we go out of the body, that we are accessing power and information that we bring back with us. Can you talk a little bit more about bringing that back with us when we come back into the body every time we go out of the body?
Sure. Everybody has experienced maybe going to the beach and they get out in that hot sun and you start to feel the heat from that sun. Now, if you haven't been to the beach and maybe you just got to your backyard, you put out that lawn chair and you stay out long enough in that sun, you start to absorb the heat. And I know people have had that experience, and then you come into a cold room or you go into something and you're still carrying the heat from the sun. Okay, now I'm giving you that because I want you to be able to use that as an analogy. Now, if the light intensity on the ethereal or the astral realm is 10,000 times greater than that sun out here. So imagine being able to look up at 1,000 suns at one time. Physically, we wouldn't be able to do that. This is why Moses could look at the burning bush and see all that light. It's a different light, okay? But what it is energy. What it is love. And as we ascend, we have less density to deal with. See, the earth realm is the most dense. And that's what makes it so difficult for us to work with our minds because of all this density. But as we ascend, the density gets less. So things begin to vibrate at a higher rate. So everybody's heard of the astral realm. We just use this as an example. I leave my body, however it happens, and I'm in this realm, and I'm able to be in this light that radiates 1,000 or 10,000 times greater than anything that you can imagine in our world. Now, if you could feel the heat on the beach from the one little teeny tiny sun that we had, or from your lawn chair, and you can actually feel yourself carrying that around with you. Imagine getting this light energy, which is nothing but love and compassion. You get this by being absorbed in it while you're there. And all that I'm saying is when we descend back to the earth realm, we bring some of that with us.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Don, for all of your wisdom you have imparted today. Thank you so much. And if that's all you wanted to say for now, I can do the closing remarks.
I just want to say that anything that I have been able to share has really come by way of God, to come by way of, love from within and all of the great teachers that have come before me. I'm just a mouthpiece. I'm just a, receptacle to help disseminate whatever it is that I've been able to do. So I just want to share that part. That's all.
Well, I'm going to read the closing remarks.
Okay.
This has been amazing. I've enjoyed this engagement. So, Don, when many of us were stumbling through our pre-adolescent years, you were exploring the God within you with diligence and veracity. You had already discovered that quiet, powerful peace that holds us all together, which is love. The thing about wisdom is that it often is not the loudest voice in the room, and neither is it adorned with many words. But the owners of wisdom have a firm confidence that cannot be shaken. And this is you, Don. Thank you for sharing your incredible love and wisdom with us today. Your words and inspiration have been like a tree bearing the fruits of life for everyone to enjoy. We are absolutely honored that you have blessed us with your time and your energy today. Thank you for being here on your birthday. It's been amazing. So I'm so very honored that you joined us, and just grateful that you connected with us.
Well, I want to thank you for having me. Everything is by the grace of God.
Yes.
And so we always have to honor and give up to the grace of God for whatever blessing that we get or have received. And I just thank you so much. I feel so much love in the presentation. I hope people were able to pick up on that and maybe want to get more and more in touch with that love within themselves and increase that love. We can do that, because if we do that, then the world will get it.
Yes, Don, my intention for everyone is that if they are already not in a very consistent meditation practice, that this presentation will help motivate them to do that, because that's what it's done for me. It's like, oh, I'm missing out on a very juicy part of this existence. And so, yes, I will be in touch to get tips, to get advice, and just we climbing. We're climbing. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day. Enjoy your birthday. Happy birthday. And we end with the heart, Don. Yes. Love and light. And thank you everyone who visited this channel today and listened to this video. Thank you for joining us. Love you.
Thank you
Good
so
night.
much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.